Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.
Greetings from the KYOS News Desk. We're joined once again this week by Merced County Supervisor, Mr. John Pedroso. And John, you walked in here this morning with your Notre Dame hat on.
Yep.
The Fighting Catholics. I mean, the Fighting Irish.
Hey, I've been a Notre Dame fan. Let me give you a little history of the Notre Dame thing. Why I am a Notre Dame fan.
Let me talk to me.
Okay, you weren't even born yet, but we used to get ready in the mornings before we went to 9:30 Mass at Sacred Heart. We used to go do our chores, come into the house, get ready for church. My dad would come in, and on TV from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock was Lindsey Nelson and Paul Horning. They used to show the highlights from the day before of the Notre Dame highlights. So ever since then, my whole family's been Notre Dame. So we've been following the Irish ever since then.
Wow.
So, I mean, this goes
you're a
back,
legit fan.
No, that we go way back to
Nice.
where Terry Handratty and, I mean, some of those guys that, you know, Montana and all those guys.
We're recording Friday, but they're playing Monday night against Alabama for the national championship.
Right.
I think it's 5:30
God's a Notre
so.
Dame fan. Remember that.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're the number one ranked team in the country. Alabama's number 2, but I think Notre Dame's a fairly sizable underdog, aren't they?
Yeah, we were talking about that. Last I heard it was around 10 points, but I'm not sure. But I don't know. We'll see. There's been a lot of upsets during this bowl game week. I mean, you know, you had Louisville, and you had yesterday Oregon, or on Thursday Oregon put a whooping on Kansas. And so, I mean, there's been some good ball games. Stanford did well. That was fun to watch. So
absolutely.
And then we got to talk a little bit about the Niners. I know we don't. But,
we do definitely have to talk about the Niners. We kind of got lucky. I mean, things couldn't have happened better for us last weekend.
No, it worked out real well, and other than David Akers missing those,
they brought in that Cundiff guy, so
and
they're
going to
competition. I don't know. He just lost his confidence, man. I don't know what happened to him. He was absolute.
It's pretty bad, even when the coach looks down when they're going to kick the field goal. He'll look the other way.
I can't bear to look. So as we sit here today, we've got the wild card games are coming up this weekend. We've got, I think, was it Seattle goes to Washington Redskins. And
then Green Bay plays
Minnesota. And then more than likely, if Minnesota beats or Green Bay beats Minnesota, then Green Bay comes to us next week.
Or if I think if Seattle beats Washington and Green Bay loses,
then we get Seattle.
Yeah,
which I'm not super excited about.
Come on, Pete Carroll. Come on to our house.
After that whooping they laid on us?
That's all right, but that was at their house. This will be at our house. It's a different story.
So you like Seattle in that Washington game?
I don't know. I'm kind of liking Washington. I'm really impressed with RG3 and that running back.
He's not 100%, man. His knee's all tore up.
I don't care, but he sure. No, I posed this question to you.
Okay.
Rookie of the year, quarterback.
Andrew Luck.
I'm on the same page. I agree.
I've got some Stanford bias, though. I like West Coast Pac-10.
Well, no, I agree, but
RG3's he's a class act too. He's a good guy. But I personally
cut his hair. But
I like Seattle in that game, and then in the Green Bay Minnesota game, I like Green Bay. You're not going to beat Green Bay twice in a row.
Not in Green Bay.
So we'll more than likely be hosting Green Bay next weekend.
Right.
And Seattle will go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then in the AFC, the byes are the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. And you got Cincinnati going to Baltimore, I believe. And then you've got who's the other one? Who's the other AFC game? It's Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Houston is hosting Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's it.
Andrew Luck in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So I like Houston and Baltimore in those two. So
don't underestimate Andrew Luck.
You want to go on record? Who you like in the Seattle-Washington game? You going to go with Washington? Seattle's favored by 3.
I'm going to take Washington just because they seem to me like they're rising they're peaking at the right time.
Okay.
And I know Seattle's good, but Seattle is harder to play. I mean, they have a harder time on the road than
they're undefeated at home, but they're about 500 on the road.
And then I'll take Green Bay.
Green Bay at home.
Yeah.
And then who do you like? Baltimore, Cincinnati.
Baltimore. I would like to see Cincinnati, but Baltimore.
Houston, Indianapolis.
I want Indianapolis.
Okay, so that's a heart bet.
That's a hard bet because my daughter's a Colt fan.
I was always told bet with your head, not with your heart.
Yeah, I know. How about voting? You vote with your head or with your heart?
Well, I vote with my head. I do vote with my head for sure. But one of the interesting things that's been coming up a lot in the news lately is this big debate over the discretionary fund that the county supervisors have.
Right.
And basically, in essence, that's a $40,000 a year fund that you have. You can do with what you think is necessary for your district.
At our discretion.
So, what is the purpose of the discretionary fund? First of all, maybe you should explain that.
Okay. Years ago, this has been in effect for years, and
this was before you came aboard.
Before I came on the board, and that was in 2005 when I first got elected. And then, but what it is, Steve, is we're allocated X amount of dollars. So it started at $100,000 when I got on the board. Then as the we were starting to seeing budget issues come, so then we brought it down, I believe, to $75,000. Then we brought it down to $60,000. So then now we brought it down to $40,000. So some of the supervisors carry over more than some of the others because. Right.
So whatever, if you don't spend the $40,000 in that fiscal year, whatever's left in the account rolls over to a fresh $40,000 that you get the next year.
It rolls over.
Right.
So, and that's why they call it discretionary. So, but my one of my biggest issues that I have here, and I did it I was having to defend myself during the campaign and saying that this is buying votes and this is buying a popularity contest, and I had numerous people coming after me and saying that kind of stuff. But what I would like to say, though, is they need to go out and see the programs that I have put the money to. Now, I know I have an assistant, okay? So some of that money is used for extra help to pay my assistant. But what people don't understand, and I really want to put this out, is that, my district is heavily Hispanic. And for me to communicate with my constituents in an effective way, I feel that I should have a bilingual assistant to help me with the day-to-day matters when it comes to communicating to my constituents, especially in the towns of the little communities of Planada and Lee Grand and Livingston. So and I've done this ever since I got elected. So it's not like this is something that's been going on. I just started. Right. And one of my other colleagues has an assistant and doesn't use her assistant as much as I use mine, and that's at her choice. But what I'm trying to say is I do it to make my district better, as far as so they realize that I'm there for them. So having said that, when someone comes to us, whether it's someone from Tri-City Football or someone from Planada Elementary School or someone from El Nido asking me that, they're getting ready to do the Little League program and in El Nido and the ball fields need repair. Well, those are county-owned facilities. The Little League program is not self-sufficient. I mean, even if you pay a certain fee to play in the program, there's no money there to maintain it. So if they ask me for $1,500 or $2,000 to get some dirt and repair the fields to make so the kids are going to be able to play on it, that's what I'm going to do. That's at my discretion. Or if an organization needs assistant with uniforms to help the youth, or a reading program in Planada, that's to help the youth, or to go to a camp to help the youth. Same thing in Livingston, the same way. They have, it's coming up in March. They have, I forget what it's called. It's annual ladies conference where a lot of the high school kids get together with their moms, and they have speakers come in and educate the young ladies, and so I donate money to that. Sober grads, I donate money to the sober grads. These are all things that are helping the kids, and that's what we need to focus on. Multicultural Center, I just donated $1,000 to that, but that's something that needs to keep going to survive. So those are things that I believe that's at my discretion. So when we're getting hammered, which I think we are in the paper, I don't think that they're telling the whole story. And that they need to go out and see the programs that utilize our discretionary dollars. And yes, I know it's county dollars, and yes, I know it's the people's money, but we're putting it back into the communities of the people that live in Merced County.
Right. Well, let's say someone like a Little League did need a couple $1,000s to fix up their ball field, and they you didn't have your discretionary fund. Where would they go for something like that?
Well, they would probably have to do fundraising, or
so there would be nowhere they could really go.
Right.
Yeah.
Because their dollars aren't there, Steve. I mean, I'm just telling you point blank, on some of the unincorporated communities, the dollars are not there. We just donated. We do this every year to one of the churches there in Planada. That the last Saturday of the month, they give out food to the needy, and they go pick up the food, and they need funding to purchase the food to feed.
So it sounds to me like you pretty much use your $40,000 every year.
Well, I do,
pretty much,
but that's what it's. I mean, there is a carryover. I'm not saying that there's not a carryover.
Now,
but
what about the issue of those large carryovers where those accounts get built up to over $100,000 in some cases?
Those are, but that's up to the discretion of my colleagues, and it's really. I understand that it's a big chunk, and I know that people have said, well, they shouldn't. I don't have a problem with the discretionary money, but I don't think it should be rolled over. I'm not going to comment on that because that's up to my colleagues and how they do their how they represent their
and it
communities.
also might be a fair assumption to make that these supervisors aren't getting approached by people in their communities, that their districts that they represent, like yours are, for the help. So there's a source. If you're a listener and you have a worthy cause and you need a couple $3,000 or whatever the case may be, your supervisor is a possible person you can go to help facilitate some funds for something like that.
I mean, Steve, this has come. I know. This is going to come up here in the next couple of weeks. But on January 28th, I believe they're having a conference at Gateway Community Church. It's about kid trafficking, and I met with the people here a couple of weeks ago, and they wanted to see if I could help sponsor. And it's not for me, Steve. I mean, it's just if my money's there's money there, and it's not my money, it's the county's money. But at my discretion, if I feel that it's a viable project, or
and another point that we should make is it's transparent. You have to document everything, every penny that you spend out of your discretionary fund has to be documented.
Everything's agendized, and if someone wants to
know where your money's gone,
they can pull up any of the agendas.
You have nothing to hide. You're proud of where you've put that money, and you stand behind what you've done.
I did it during my campaign. I showed, and I don't know how much I can talk about about the campaign and stuff, but I was getting targeted for saying that I was buying votes with discretionary dollars. I would do that even if I wasn't running for re-election. I would do that when someone has needs some assistance. I want to help them. I'll go back to the McNamara pool. It's the same thing to keep that thing going.
Yeah.
I mean, there was dollars that they weren't going to be able to generate, whether they could have all the fundraising in the world, but to get it done, fundraising takes a lot of time and effort. And so, I mean, we were fortunate that Mr. Walsh and myself donated $5,000 apiece, and the sheriff came on board, and then the city came on board.
Does the sheriff have a discretionary fund?
He doesn't have discretionary money, but he has dollars that is allocated for, and you could ask him about it, but dollars that are specifically for community
things,
to help the youth. Yeah. So that's what we have to strive for, is to keep our kids busy and out of trouble.
Right.
And that's why I'm so adamant about this.
Yeah.
And
again, I would stress that if you are in a district with a supervisor that has a lot of money sitting in his discretionary or her discretionary fund right now, go to them. If you have a fund, something that needs to be funded that's worthy of the community, any type of program, go ask.
If it's a viable project,
absolutely,
the supervisors are going to listen.
Yep.
And
it doesn't do any good sitting in the bank.
And I'm not speaking, I won't speak for my colleagues, but I know there's no malicious intent there to hoard the money. It's not.
Right.
That's
not
what
the transparency, you can see that. I mean, you can see where every dollar is spent. Now, if they're going to, if you look at the expenditures of someone's discretionary fund and you're kind of questioning, whoa, why would $5,000 go there, or why would $10,000 go there? Then that says something about the individual, and then they have to be up for re-election.
Right.
So a discretionary fund would be a good way to kind of measure, if you will, where these people's hearts are.
Well, the thing is, Steve, is it's like last year. Not last year, in 2011, when the League Grand football team went to the state championship game, and they eventually lost, but they were playing with uniforms that were old, so they went they were wanted for this year. get new uniforms. So I told them, and this was even before I was up for re-election, but I said, let me look at my discretionary dollars. It goes back to the community, goes back to the youth, and let's see if we can put some money there. It's the same thing with over there at the high school and the junior high in Lee Grand.
Yeah.
I had a constituent come up to me, ask me if I would donate some money to the ball fields to get them all prepared because the district didn't have enough funds for dugouts and for some fencing, and we did it. And that's all I'm saying is that's what it's there for.
Right.
And it's not trying to hide anything, not trying to buy any votes. If they need lighting in the park, we help fund that. If they need cleaning,
to improve the community,
and that's what we're doing.
That, otherwise would not
janitorial services in both Lee Grand and Planada.
Yeah.
If I didn't pay for it out of my discretionary dollars, I don't know what they would do other than it would be not cleaned as well as it should be.
Right.
And so these are things that I firmly believe in.
Yeah.
Firmly believe.
And it sounds like you're very active with yours.
Yeah.
But there are some supervisors that have had 2 or 3 years sitting there.
There's some technicalities, and I want to make sure that it's done right because I'll always ask county council, or I'll always ask the clerk of the board if this is a doable, or I'll ask our CEO, Mr. Brown, if it's a doable project, and if it doesn't seem like, if it seems like it's not,
it's got to pass the smell test,
right? And there's no other way to say it.
If if you were to come and say, hey, I needed $1,500 to fix a little league baseball field, that's a no-brainer,
right?
There's certain things,
but it's stuff that's not being abused,
Absolutely.
and it's still county dollars
and
going
you
back
think
into
about it
the
in
county.
the big picture, and you take that $40,000 and throw it back into the general fund. What really would that get you?
Well, and that's the thing, and $40,000 is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, $40,000 is a lot of money. By times 5, that's $200,000.
Right.
But each one of us as supervisors, it's at our discretion on how we want to use it.
And the thing is there's $200,000 sitting there, and there's only 5 people that you need to talk to in order to get, come to a meeting of the minds about how to spend it. You don't have to go with a bunch of red tape, which is another thing that's pretty.
But if it assists the community and the people that live in the districts, I think that it's a worthy project, and I just wanted to get that off my chest because it's really frustrating to when certain individuals try to hammer it when they need to look and see.
And I'm sure you could take those individuals on a tour and show them what you've done with your money.
I'd be more than happy to.
That would probably kind of lighten them up a little bit and
I'd
say, well,
I'd be more than happy.
I think people are so jaded on politicians now that they just
automatically
think the worst.
And I mean, just look what happened last at midnight with the fiscal cliff thing, and I didn't want to really go into that too much but it really frustrates me to see our politicians, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, wait to the last second to do this and make us look like fools. This country look like fools to wait to the last minute.
We've known about this for a whole year, and they wait until literally the last hour.
I was talking to someone this morning, and it's all ego. It's all ego on both sides. And the ones that lose are the people of the United States of America. Exactly.
That's my thing. Is we're sending those people with those egos and those characters up there to represent us.
Yeah, it's just frustrating, Steve. And that's why I like local politics so much better. Because
you can see change here. You can function change at a local level. Yeah, I agree.
So,
well,
and then I don't know how much time we have, but I wanted to talk a little bit also. There was some stuff in there about Amtrak and how Amtrak's losing money, but ridership is up. And the riderships, even with it being up in the San Joaquins, that they're still not making money yet. Well, they're not making money, but the thing that I like to see is, when I've been on the San Joaquin Valley Rail Committee for 8 years, and the ridership back in the early 2005 and 2006 was really nothing. So I could see why people were, but ridership is up, and I think Caltrans is a little frustrated with the San Joaquin Valley Rail Authority as far as supporting us like the capital corridors are supported, or down south, the bigger areas. So I think that's one of the reasons why that article was put out there. Is it's probably we're in the center and we're not at the north or the south of the state, so they're trying to make it look a little worse than what it is. But I don't think by any stretch of the way that it's as bad as they're saying it is.
And Caltrans and Amtrak are tied together?
Yes, right. So
I did not know that.
But anyways, and then another thing that they're working on now is a joint powers and authority with cities and counties getting together, working a group together. In fact, we'll have our first meeting in March 21st here in Merced about this specific item here about how viable the San Joaquins are.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is a very economically depressed area, so I'm sure a lot of people ride the train around here.
I'm telling you, it's the ridership is up.
Yep. And real quick, anything new on the ambulance contract bidding debacle?
No, Steve.
What's the next step on that?
This reminds me of when I was on the school board years ago. We had a few items that came up. There was swimming pools and cheerleaders, and then when you not a knock on cheerleaders or swimming pools, please. Right. But what I was saying is when an item comes up like that, you learn more about that specific item at that time. Well, I've learned more about ambulance service now in the last month or so that we need to find out what's going on. And I know I have some meetings set up next week with some of the ambulance companies, with the 2 ambulance companies to, just hear.
Sure.
But I just want to see a fair process, and I've said that from the get-go. It pains me when we have businesses that have been in Merced for 64 years and have to put them through stuff like this. But there's probably, not probably, but there's, 2 sides to every story, and there's some miscommunication here. And I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong. I just think that to probably make it a fair process is start the process over again.
Yeah, I know that was your position last time I talked to you about this.
Right. So,
and time is not an issue. You have time to start the process over.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're probably going to get a lot more resistance from AMR at this point for a do-over because they've been awarded the the points.
Right. I would think.
But
so we'll see what happens. Yeah. But I know
we have the Tea Party in. I try to get everybody's point of view, and in a nutshell, their point of view, as far as I could ascertain, was it was a fair process and the best man won. And that's but they're very the Tea Party is known to be very black and white.
Right.
And so that's their point of view. So.
Well, I think. But like I said, I think there was some hiccups in the process, and that's what we're trying to find out. Yeah. And I'll go on record of saying this too. I don't micromanage the departments, and we go by the material that's brought to us from the departments and study, and read what they have to say.
They provided a website to go to, the www.county.merced.ca, and then it says NID equals 1850, and basically it says it's the way they explained it to me was it's how the process worked, and they said they implored people to go to that website, watch the first 30 minutes of the presentation, and then for yourself determine if you think the process is fair or unfair. But they seem to be convinced that if you were to watch that first 30 minutes of this program, that it was a fair process. I mean, it was a fair game.
Well, we'll see. Yep, we'll see how it plays out.
Exactly right, my friend. And it's kind of nice to watch football this weekend, knowing our boys are going to be around next week.
Nice, relax.
Exactly.
To where my wife wants to kill me now because I'm finding myself getting back to my old ways and getting upset, and I shouldn't do that because.
It's all right as long as it doesn't turn negative, It's fun to kind of step outside the world of politics in the world of villainization and
that's what a lot of people
just
forget.
Sports, yeah.
That's what's so good about sports.
Absolutely, just a contest.
For 4 or 5 hours, you can sit and relax and
just
get mad
away from everything.
Get mad at your team or
exactly,
or just enjoy yourself.
It's entertainment, is what it is.
Right. And then, finally, if I might add that I know this will be aired on Saturday, but today, Friday at 4 today, I'll be getting sworn in for my 3rd term, and I just want to go on.
Your 3rd term?
My 3rd term.
Okay.
So I just want to thank everybody that supported me for the last 8 years, and look forward to another 4 years because. This election was pretty rigorous, and there was some challenging times there, and we went through some challenging times personally and through the campaign, but we prevailed. And I just, I can't say this enough, and I've said this I don't know how many times. And today when I give my little speech, I'm going to, say that I love my job. I've continued to love my job, and I love the district, and I love representing the people of Merced County.
And feeling like you're making a difference.
Well, we hope so. And that's all we can, that's all our goals can be.
Yep.
Is make sure that we're making
all
a difference.
You can do is what you think is best.
Yep. And so, and I've been lucky, Steve, over the years, because I've met a lot of good people up and down this state and the nation that, they're still my friends today. And it all goes to how you treat people and the way you want to be treated. And that's how I live my life, and that's how I want to do my job.
That's the golden rule.
That's it.
Treat others as you would like to be treated.
Yep.
Mr. John, thank you, sir.
Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I mean, it was kind of fun having 4 grandkids sitting on my lap at one time.
Yeah.
Never had that before, so it's a whole different feeling.
You're getting old, John.
It's like, well, you know what?
You're getting old, dude.
Yeah, that's like Mr. Hub Walsh says, if I'd have known grandkids were this good, I'd have had them first.
Hey, man, you got a pretty cool son, though. I happen to know that firsthand. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, anyways, thanks a million, and have a great week. We'll see you in 2.
It sounds good.
All right.
Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.
Greetings from the KYOS News Desk. We are joined once again this week by Merced County Sheriff Mr. Mark Pazin. Welcome back, Mr. Pazin.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. How was your New Year?
It went well. Very quiet. Took it easy. Had a couple events.
That's what happens when you get old, Mark. Things just start to quiet down.
Hey, yeah. That was self-inflicted. Avoid the 11, baby. Avoid the 11. There you go. Don't need that.
How'd we do on the 11, speaking of? Did we? I saw DUI arrests were actually up a little bit, huh?
A little bit, yeah. And they had the checkpoints in and around Merced County. So, some people...
Does the sheriff's office participate in that, or is that more of a highway patrol?
Highway patrol, city jurisdictions. If they need some assistance, we'll help out. But we got more than enough to do with just the shootings.
Exactly. You guys basically are out there fighting crime, more or less, right?
Exactly.
You guys don't even really write speeding tickets or anything, do you? You will if you see something egregious, but your main thing is community safety.
Yes, law enforcement.
Right.
Criminal activity. Road rage.
So if you want to be a big dog, you go into the sheriff's department, huh?
Oh, there you go. You're just going to start trouble.
Right on.
But, contrary to maybe the Mr. DA, I am the chief law enforcement officer of the county, and quite a powerful constitutional officer.
That's right. According to the Tea Party, you're not only the most powerful guy in the county, you're the most powerful guy in the state and at the federal level, according to the boys from the Tea Party.
I like it.
You the man.
You go, Tea Party.
You the man. We were talking a little bit of football before we sat down. Got the NFC playoffs this week. Minnesota going to Green Bay. Got Seattle going to Washington. You want to go on record with any predictions there, or are you just going to let the pundits do that?
I'll let you and Pedroso babble about
Pedroso and I disagreed on the Washington-Seattle. I took Seattle. He took Washington. We both took Green Bay. You differ anywhere
Green
there?
Bay. I'd have to go with Green Bay.
What do you like in the Seattle-Washington? That's kind of
I think Pete Carroll will go ahead and pull it off. But then again, you have that unknown
RG3,
quantity with RG3.
Yeah, but his knee's tore up, man. His knee is not 100%. His knee's not even close to 100%.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah. Well, I was watching him play last week. Look, he's hobbling around. Got a big old brace on it. Did you see that injury?
I did.
I mean, that knee whipped. That thing went 60 degrees in the wrong direction.
I know. I saw that. God,
I was surprised he got up from that.
But that RG3, he's quicker with the brace on than most people are without it. So, probably after it's all said and done, but they're playing in Washington.
They're in Washington. And Washington took care of Dallas pretty handily last week.
Yeah, I think Dallas was so beat up. They were just like a harp seal. Everybody's beating on them, type thing. It was like the first season.
I don't like that visual, the harp seal.
Okay, like a Boppo the Clown then. Right. How's that? Like a punching bag.
So you're taking Seattle over Washington.
Yeah, I have to.
And then Indianapolis at Houston. I like Houston. So did John. That's Andrew Luck, our boy from Stanford.
Yeah.
And you got Pagano, the guy's just coming back from leukemia, their coach.
I'd probably have to go with Indianapolis on that one.
On the road. I think you're getting 7 points in that one, too. Yeah. And the other one is Cincinnati at Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Baltimore. Right. Got that crazy Ray Lewis. He'll get them all fired up.
Now down to business here.
Yes.
You caught that crazy SOB who killed his dad. Actually, allegedly. We should say allegedly, right?
He's a suspect.
You're
suspect.
You're innocent until proven guilty.
Correct.
But you caught the guy that's a suspect in killing his father in Livingston? Where'd you say?
That was in Delhi.
Delhi.
9,000 block of Sycamore Avenue. That was New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, already out and about working the major crime unit with our sergeant. They were already all over it. Sister comes home. We were somewhat cryptic originally because we knew almost from the get-go there was some family component in who the victim was, but also the suspect.
Had you been out there before? I mean, was this guy unknown to law enforcement, or?
I guess I should have done a little more research on that. I can't answer that.
Okay. But he wasn't a chronically troubled, he wasn't in and out of jail or anything per se?
No, I can't answer that. I don't. Well, I didn't check the
police records,
but the name didn't sound familiar or anything.
Well, he was about a 39-year-old, and he was living with his dad, right?
35-year-old,
35. And the sister came home and found the dad.
Exactly.
It was an obvious murder?
Yes, yes. Gunshot wounds to the torso.
And he's the suspect.
And he was suspect.
Where'd you end up picking him up at?
We had great cooperation with the family. And evidently there were other siblings in and around Northern California. And the younger Reed, the suspect, evidently took the, I think it was an Altima car. Anyway, took the 2012 car and just started driving north.
Belonged to him or his dad?
Belonged to the family.
Okay.
So it was a family vehicle. According to the sister, a gun was also missing, so he was considered armed and dangerous, obviously. And got as far, according to the family members, got a call from the suspect brother, that he was in a Lodi area and had run out of gas and had no money, on and on and on. So we immediately sent the Highway Patrol and San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. We had a description of the car but couldn't find it. Family keeps in contact with the suspect, and finally on Thursday morning we talked to a person at the truck stop there on I-5, and I think it's Highway 12. There's a big truck stop there, northbound, on the northbound side, and had eyes on the suspect. And the worker was very, very cool and calm and collected, and waited till San Joaquin got there. They kind of cordoned off the area, San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. We sent our 2 detectives just to verify that that was him, had the car, and he was taken into custody without incident Thursday early afternoon. So as far as the motive, I've not debriefed the detectives to get into that right now, but one can only speculate that.
So he'll be arraigned on attempted murder, more or less.
Not attempted.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Murder.
Yeah, he's dead.
Sorry, yeah.
Man,
Sorry
you're still groggy.
I am. Believe it or not, yes. I'm still recovering from New Year's.
Attempted went into done.
Right.
And so, 67-year-old evidently was just shot while he was sleeping. And
was he in relatively good health?
Yeah. Didn't seem
he
to
wasn't
have
like convalescing and the sun standing there.
No, it wasn't like a euthanasia thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Dr. Kevorkian by any stretch of the imagination. Right. It was just a straight up murder.
I noticed we had a kind of a spike in our murder rate this year, if I'm not mistaken. We went from like 14 to 23. Is that kind of misleading, or what was the number on that? Yeah.
Statistics are always a fun product to deal with because it can make you look good or make you look bad. Say you have you've got one home run. Let's use a baseball metaphor. One touchdown. You get 2 touchdowns. Well, you've increased 100%, but that's only still 2 for the year. Big deal. Right. And the same thing here with the murder. I know, you look at the newspapers and people start beating you up on 64% rise in the homicide rate. Yeah. It's not a crime wave. It's just like I told Victor Patton from the Sun Star. It's just the peaks and valleys of criminality. In 2010, I think we only had like 15 or so. Then it kind of spiked. We had 28. We had a couple ruthless murders. I think a couple in Los Banos, for countywide. I mean, when someone wants to kill another person, you could have a cop on every street corner. You could have a deputy sheriff on every roadway. You're not going to stop it.
Right. And I don't mean to sound callous, but, do you even count, like, gang murders?
Sure.
I mean, those kind of things, those...
Well, let's take it, for instance, what happened January 1st. It wasn't a gang murder, had no gang element to it.
Right.
It was a domestic violence situation. So how do you stop that?
Right.
You go, let's juxtapose over to gang violence. So you got a bunch of knuckleheads, you got a pack of roving dingoes that want to kill somebody wearing red. How are you going to stop that other than a cop just happens to be driving by? You may stop it for that moment in time, but you're certainly not going to stop to the prospective intent of someone that wants to whack another rival gang member.
Right, but you have a situation like this guy in Delhi who you get total cooperation from his family to help apprehend him. And then you have something like happens over at La Cascada off of Santa Fe,
right,
where a guy gets shot in front of 200 people, and no one wants to cooperate with the police.
Exactly.
So, there's kind of a difference. A life is a life, and I mourn the death of any human being. But, when you've got a culture where, getting killed is part of the resume, if you will. It's part of the job description. If you're going to run in blue or run in red and be in a gang or whatever the case may be, like you said many times, you're going to end up either dead or in jail.
Correct.
Those investigations, and this is just a layman speaking, but seem to me would take less importance than something other than that, where, you're going to be beating your head against the wall because no one wants to cooperate with you versus being able to get something constructive done with someone that is cooperative.
I understand in concept what you're saying, and let me maybe simplify it, if I may. There is a stark difference between what cooperation we got from the family regarding the Reed case versus these buffoons that I slipped on a banana peel. I don't know how I got shot. We're going to do some basics, but we're not going to bust our behind for these idiots that don't want to point the finger at who did this to them. It's interesting. The law enforcement gets batted around because of the code of silence. Well, what's going on with the gangsters? They don't come forth with...
You can't snitch. You can't be a snitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, these TV shows, they drive me nuts, and these movies that they come out with, who was it? Gangland Now, or with the newest movie, and all of a sudden there's this code of silence on the law
enforcement. I saw one
force.
called The Amish Mafia. You ever seen that one yet?
No.
Amish Mafia. Like literally on these Amish people that live in the Amish lifestyle. There's this cat that goes around administering justice to the people, kind of in a mafia style.
Kind of getting back to basics.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, it's the same thing. It just drives me wild when, law enforcement gets painted as this thin blue line and no one, talks and everybody is the code of silence. That doesn't happen, believe me, because we do enough internal affairs investigations that everybody says, yeah, this is what happened. You get back over here to the criminal underworld, they're the ones that, that clam up, don't help with investigators. So guess what?
Why waste resources on that?
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, go get your ass shot off and
right. As long as you guys keep shooting each other and don't shoot any innocent people, keep your shots confined to your little gangbang lifestyle. And,
right.
And then if you get outside and you kill an innocent, we're gonna hammer you.
Exactly.
Speaking of, we were going to speak a little bit about the gun issue coming off the Connecticut tragedy that we had. Did you have anything you wanted to speak to that about?
This is going to be the new Congress just got sworn in, and it is going to be brutal.
You mean as far as the gun control battle?
Yes. You got Senator Dianne Feinstein from California, who I know fairly well. She's proposing a ban on assault weapons. You have Democrats that want to ban weapons in total. Then you're going to get the NRA involved, and then you're going to start the epic battle of pro versus con gun rights. Right. I don't know where. It's not the gun's fault.
Right. Guns don't kill people. People with guns kill people.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like what happened. And here's a classic example of what occurred here on Sycamore Avenue, Merced County, on January 1st. A person, the son, picked up the gun and killed his dad. How do you stop that?
Can't stop it.
Okay. Is it the gun's fault? It's an inanimate object.
There's nothing that could have been done to stop that. I don't think there's anything that could have been done to stop what happened in Connecticut. We've talked about this before. But there's also, you're talking about the extremity of trying to ban assault rifles and high-capacity magazines and so forth. On the other side of that extreme is you've got people proposing that all school teachers should take gun safety courses and be packing heat.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, it seems to get like it goes to one extreme to the other, like everything else in politics.
Yes.
The cooler heads never seem to prevail.
He can't, because it's so the passion is so
raw,
blazing hot. It's absolutely every nerve is exploded. It becomes visceral. It becomes, you don't care. School kids have been killed. They've had incidents of these type of slaughters throughout history. We were talking about it a few weeks ago, where you had that kook back in Chicago in the late 20s bombed a place. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Then you fast forward up and through. You're always going to have, unfortunately, some incident. What I find interesting is that we don't showcase how well things are. We haven't had, knock on wood, any horrific incident in Merced County. The last one in California was that Patrick Purdy in Stockton, California, back in the late 80s. Again, is it a gun issue, or is it us not paying attention to a family member that isn't acting right? And how do you even stop that?
Yeah. Have you heard any good ideas in this fervor? I know they did the math on trying to put an armed police officer at every school in the country, and it came out to like $5.6 billion a year in salaries that would have to be paid.
Right.
Is that
just
for
us?
I know you were when you and I first talked after this incident. You seemed like you were receptive to the idea of possibly having a single, law enforcement type person on a campus that would have that ability to neutralize, something like that if it were to happen.
I don't disagree with that concept. Again, it's going to be the finances that will be the gargantuan hurdle to get over with. The school resource officer on or about is $100,000 a year. Okay, so just for the sheriff's office, we have 4 or 5 high schools between LeGrand, Delhi, Hillmar, Los Banos, Dos Palos, the West Side area. So there's about $500,000. That's just for the salaries and benefits. Now you add equipment and vehicle. Now you're up to about $150,000. Let's take the city of Merced. You've got continuation school, elementary school. Right. Yeah, exactly.
You could just go on and on and on.
Where do you stop?
Exactly.
See, it's not so much the high school anymore, because I know Chief Andrade has a officer over at Merced High, and I believe there's one over at Golden Valley, plus a probation officer. How do you sustain that? So all of a sudden, I hate to even put out a scenario, but it must be said, and there's no diplomatic way to present this. You can be a killer that snaps, that says, you know what, I'm going to go after somebody. All you have to do is monitor the whereabouts of the officer, and you can circumvent that in a heartbeat, okay? You would literally need 3 or 4 officers patrolling, and even then...
Not to mention that, like you said, if you were a nut job and you were going to go onto a campus with an arm, he'd be the first guy you'd go after. You want to neutralize him before you went after anybody else, because you know he'd be the one...
I've always said this, the element of surprise is the most powerful tool in anybody's arsenal. Okay, you're a pretty husky guy, and you could probably hold your own in a fair fight.
I can't fight a bullet.
But here's the deal. No, you can't. You can't fight a .40 caliber, or you can't fight a baseball bat if somebody comes up behind you and clobbers you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you could probably take on a couple, 2, 3 in a fair arena style type thing.
I saw it coming.
Yeah, type deal. But you get someone that's lurking around the corner, all of a sudden you're bebopping along or talking with somebody, and boom,
get the crap knocked
you're on
out
the
of you.
ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, and I think we've talked about this before. Also, it's just that feeling of hopelessness, or helplessness, not hopelessness, but helplessness, where the fact of the matter is if there's nothing that can be done. Now, there's things that can be done to diminish the likelihood, but it's infantile. I mean, percentually speaking, bringing down the probability is. I
want to do a positive note on this. I'm going to tell you how we are. Columbine was a very instrumental and educational moment for law enforcement. What used to happen was this. There was an incident. There was an armed marauder. Law enforcement would secure the area and not engage immediately the bad guy, okay, or bad guys. We learned a lesson that would give you a doctorate, because now we have changed the way we enforce law and engage bad people. We get in the mix immediately. We do the diamond formation, and we are quickly involved in the incident. That's what happened on a couple issues here recently, but you're not going to stop it. But on the positive side, law enforcement was able to get in there right away with the mentality, we got to go find the bad guy. Yep. And that's what we trained for here in Merced County. Captain Jones did the post-qualifier, Peace Officer Standards and Training, to put forth the program, and I believe it was an 8-hour class where different law agencies got together and would go into a diamond formation. In fact, a couple years ago, I went through it, and it's very fascinating how you do it. You kind of leapfrog over everyone, secure doors, and we go after the bad guy immediately. We do not wait to secure the perimeter and wait for the SWAT team. Those days are gone.
Right.
We need to be hostile, we need to be mobile, and we need to be agile, and immediately engage the bad guys.
Yeah. Did we know statistically? Because I knew at one point I'd read that the chances of a police officer or law enforcement officer having to draw their weapon in a battle was, statistically speaking, is that changing? I mean, is it becoming? Probably at some point in your career you're going to have to pull that weapon in self-defense, or.
I think you're going to.
You've been in it 30 years.
Yeah, and I have. Look at what just happened recently this past week in New York. 3 New York police officers were shot. Thank God none of them were killed, but they were engaged in a gun battle. So it's a sad statement. We're always going to lose a law enforcement officer in the line of duty. As far as pulling your duty weapon, I think for most intents and purposes, during your career, it's going to happen at some point in time. Yes.
That should be a big part of your consideration when you consider going into this line of work.
Exactly. It's not as it's not the Barney Mayberry Andy type thing. No, those days they have been gone, Steve. And I think what people get kind of comfortable in their own little world until a criminal element invades the sanctity of their home, or they witness a tragedy like what happened in Connecticut, and then people start, God, could that happen here? And unfortunately, it could.
Yeah, it can happen anywhere.
Exactly.
And that's the same thing. There's nothing that can be done to stop it, and that's the helpless part.
1/1/2013, we registered our first murder because something happened at that household, and hopefully we'll drill down. I'll be able to report on it next week.
Cool. Well, anything else you need to get out there before I let you go, Mr. Mark?
No. Be careful. You got the everybody hunker down. Football season and finals are coming up. It'll be good stuff.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, buddy.
We'll see you next week.
Okay, 10-4.
Merced County's news voice since 1936. News Talk 1480, KYOS, Merced.